Okay, we can get started. So, good afternoon. Welcome to our monthly self-direction webinar where we review important topics that help you successfully self-direct your services. Please note we are recording the webinar and it will be posted on our website on the Forms and Resources page under Webinars. I'm Peter Cook, Director of Stakeholder Relations, and I'm here with Mark Weinstein, Senior Director of Self-Directed Services. And today we're just going to do a run through of the Evvie portal in the FMMS engine system. So the Evvie portal is the electronic timekeeping system that participants who self-direct through Fellow would use to approve their employees' time. They can also submit time depending on the live-in caregiver status of the employee. And today we're going to go over some of the basic features. One other thing I wanted to note was that we will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So you can type questions into the Q&A box and we will go through them at the end of the presentation. So if you could just wait until the end to ask questions, we might cover the question during the run of show here. So when a participant starts with Fellow, they receive an invite to the system. You sign up and then you'll log in. It can be daily, it could be weekly, it can be every pay period to approve the shifts that the employees who also use the same system enter either through the Evvie app or directly through the portal. So we're going to review the participant side of things, mainly because it's so similar to the employee side when it comes to entering a shift and approving a shift. This is a landing page that the participant and the employee are going to see when they log into Evvie. So I don't have any shifts entered yet, so I'm not going to see any shifts for this page, but when we do enter one, you'll see that it appears. But if you do want to just do a quick review of all shifts that have been entered, you can just click the shifts up here or view all shifts down here. And that'll take you to a page where if you scroll down, you can see all the shifts entered and they just appear in the order that they were placed in. So it's chronological based on the shift time. So not necessarily when you created the shift, because if you make the shift today, but it's a shift from, several months ago, it would appear on the actual shift date that you're entering. So if I click on Evvie portal up at the top here, it takes me back to that main page. You can also click, if you just want to see the current pay period, you can click view my pay period. And since I don't have any current ones entered, it takes me back a pay period. So you can see these shifts that were entered 4/13, 4/14, 15, and 16 from the previous pay period. And when you're on this view, you can approve or batch approve like all the shifts in that pay period, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to navigate back to the main Evvie portal page again. So if I want to enter a single shift, I can click view all shifts here. And that gives us this menu that includes, you've got all the shifts down here, just all the shifts that came in, but above it, you can not only search for certain shifts based on the criteria here, but you can also create a new one. So if I select create new shift, I'm going to enter one just for yesterday. Time zone is automatically Eastern. You can adjust the time of the shift under the date range here. So I'm just putting in a half-hour shift. You can pick your employee. We're going to do Bruno. All your active employees will appear on this list. And once you pick the employee, the consumer enrollment is going to populate automatically. If you don't see a consumer enrollment, then you should place a customer service ticket through Zendesk, and we can troubleshoot the issue. And then next up, you'll see the service codes for the employee Again, the participant would choose the service codes that an employee is using when they onboard the employee. If you need to add an additional code for an employee because they start providing another service, you can submit an employee change form. PTO shifts would also just appear as service codes here, just to be clear. So they don't get entered in advance. They get entered just like a regular shift. So for our purpose here, I'm going to pick personal support staff hours. I'm going to pick the location as home. You have the option of including notes if you want to. If somebody wanted to write about what was done during the shift, in addition to being able to select these ADL codes, they can also just fill out the notes about what was done for the shift. Since we're entering this through the Evvie portal, you are supposed to pick an exception reason for respite and for personal support. Employees are required to clock in using the app, which logs the shift in real time, and then it appears in the Evvie portal within a few hours. So for our purposes here, I'm just going to pick EVV not required for the service. If the employee has the live-in caregiver exemption, they can just pick EVV not required for the service. Same thing for like CDS. If you have questions about the EVV exemption for an employee, if they're a live-in caregiver, you could reach out to your CCS about getting that process started. And then we have a comment section under the reasons. And so the comments are a little different from like the notes related to the shift. If the employee is maybe they forgot to log a shift in real time and they wanted to note that they'd forgotten to log the shift, they can make that in the comments section here. Then you just check this confirmation box and you can create the shift. So once you've created it, it takes you directly to the shift page here, and you can see all the individual details related to the shift, right? So I've created it for April 22nd, 12 to 12:30 a.m. And if you scroll down, you can see the history of the shift. So you can see the participant, which in the system is called the consumer. Lady Gaga created this shift. So both the employee and the participant need to approve a shift. The first person to do it approves, the second person to do it approval locks. It doesn't matter what order you do it in, the participant would make that decision. But just wanted to note both the employee and participant need to approve a shift before it will be ready to be processed for payroll. One thing I would note is if a shift comes in through the Evvie app where the employee is logged in real time, that will approve automatically when it lands in the Evvie portal for review by the participant. But if the employee clocks out late or something, or early, or an adjustment needs to be made, you can always make an adjustment on the shift. So you can go in and hit adjust shift here, and it just takes you back to a page where you can correct the time. Maybe they did the wrong service code. You could change the service code, and so on. If the shift was entered, totally erroneously, and you just want to basically get rid of it, we can't delete shifts, but you can, as long as it's not approval locked, you can deny a shift also. You could include the reason in like the comment section. And we have like a denial code that the visit was logged in error. Just keep in mind when it comes to denying shifts that, again, both the participant and the employee need to deny it. So the first person to do it denies the shift. The second person to do it denial locks the shift. I think sometimes teams maybe forget to denial lock a shift, and then they're trying to enter the corrected shift that may be shorter, but during the same time frame, and they can't do it. That's because the shift would need to be denial locked. Once the shift is denial locked, it effectively doesn't overlap with another shift. And for family members or relatives who are working for a participant who are limited to 40 hours, if you accidentally put in a shift that puts you over those 40, and you don't want to adjust it, you can always denial lock the shift, and then it won't count against the 40 hours. So I've entered my shift here. And if I go back to the Evvie portal page now, you can now see the shift appearing here. So the next thing I can do, if I want to approve the shift, is I click back on the view all shifts, or I could go to view my pay period because the shift is in the current pay period. If I click view shift, I can approve the shift by clicking approve. So all you have to do there is check the box, hit submit approval, and you can scroll down and see the shift is now approved. We approved it 3 minutes after manually entering the shift. So now the next step would be the employee would need to approval lock the shift. And once it gets approval locked, nothing more needs to be done. The shift will go over to our payroll team at the end of the pay period for processing. And you can actually check the status of the shift in real time in the participant dashboard. So if you have multiple shifts that you want to approve, you can go to the main page again, go to view my pay period, and you can just go back and view different previous pay periods. And if you want to approve all shifts at once, well, this isn't a great example because there's only one shift, but if you want to approve multiple shifts at once, you can choose the batch option here. So if I want to batch approve shifts, I just click batch approve. Again, I highly recommend, reviewing each shift individually first to make sure the service code is correct, to make sure that maybe it doesn't overlap with another employee shifts. But once you've confirmed that, you can click the all button here on this page that includes all these shifts, and you can technically lock them all at once. And just note, we're approving shifts for multiple employees here. We've got Bruno, and then we've got Elvis, right? So if you submit all approvals, you can see that we successfully approved 4 shifts there. And if you scroll down, you can see all the shifts on the shifts page. They're approved. So it's really the exact same thing with approval locking. If you wanted the employee to go in or the employees to go in and approval lock those shifts now, they would just go to the view my pay period section. So again, going back to the main page here, Evvie portal, they can click view my pay period and then they can approval lock their shifts if they want to do it all at once. But it doesn't matter what order you do it in. It's up to the participant. The participant can request that the employees approve time every day. The participant can approve, shifts as they come in real time. They can do it at the end of the pay period. It's up to whatever works for the team. If you don't want to enter an individual shifts, but want to enter more than one shift at once, say it's maybe CDS or you have the live-in caregiver exception, you can go to the shifts page and you can create a batch shift entry. This is where we make multiple shifts at one time. So we will create a batch. You can only do this per employee. So I'm going to pick Bruno. And it's basically like making another shift. You're going to pick the exception reason, EVV not required. And then you're going to click add shifts to batch. And this opens up the page that has the ability to enter multiple shifts at once. I'm going to pick April 21st. So I'm making one half an hour shift for April 21st, and then I'm going to pick the service code. right below there. Pick community for my location. And then you can add individual notes or ADL codes for each shift. I'll make a second shift here for the 20th. To adjust the time, again, it's below the calendar. Pick your service code, pick your location. And so you can add multiple shifts, as many as you need to. I'm just going to do 2 for the purposes of the demonstration, but once you've entered however many shifts you need, and you can add another one if you click this button, if you're doing more than 7, you can hit save and review batch entries. So I've created a batch shift entry, but one thing that I want to be clear about, I think sometimes people maybe miss this step, is we haven't added these to the portal yet. We've got a batch, but we haven't actually finished the batch. You can see there's like a save and finish later option here. You still need to check the confirmation box here, and you need to publish the batch before it's going to appear as like approvable in the portal. However, as a reminder, if you just want to scroll through all the shifts, regardless of pay period, you can always go to shifts here and you can just scroll down. Everything's in chronological order. All the employee shifts appear. You can also search by employee here. So if I want to search for just Bruno shifts, I can do Bruno. And I can pick like a date range. You can also pick the payroll schedule range from here too, where it'll just pick that payroll schedule. It doesn't go back beyond 6 months, but you can always search by the date range up here if the employee, if you're like looking for something from, a year ago or even more than a year ago. A couple of tips related to the notifications that can be sent out. Like if you approve a shift, it'll notify an employee and vice versa. If you click the top right corner here, it has a couple of like resources. You can go to the participant dashboard if you're the participant. There's the Evvie user guide. There's also a user preferences page. So if I click that, you can set for there to be a notifier email if new shifts come in. You can also turn it off if you don't like getting the notifications. We do send out timesheet reminders twice each pay period, reminding people that shifts need to be approval locked by, the Monday after the pay period by 5 p.m. You can also get a weekly listing of the shifts that you can select, but you can also turn it off. And that's under the preferences in the top right here. There hasn't been too much functionality recently, but a couple of things we have updated. If you're trying to approval lock a shift that overlaps with another shift, you will get an error message or a notification saying that it can't be done. So again, you would just want to make sure if a shift overlaps. So I'll just go back to an individual shift. You can always adjust a shift as long as it's not approval locked, or you can deny it. We recently implemented just a feature in the system where if a relative who's limited to 40 hours a week enters over 40 hours a week, they would need to adjust or deny the shift that puts them over. That's down to the minute. It's not to the second anymore. So it should be a lot easier. But I just keep in mind, like denying shifts and adjusting shifts is how you can ensure that shifts don't overlap or ensure that the shifts for the week don't go over any of the limits. So that's pretty much it. I think we covered all the bases. You can enter shifts individually. You can approve them individually. You would adjust them individually or deny them individually. You can also enter shifts in bulk, and you can approve them in bulk. And again, if you ever have any questions um, about functionality of the Evvie system or FMSE in general, you can always place a ticket under FMSE help. If you accidentally approve a lock a shift that you didn't mean to, or maybe it needs an adjustment, you can always place a payroll ticket under corrected shifts, and we can work with you to correct a shift. I think that's about it, though. We can take some questions now if we have any.
Yeah, we have a few questions, couple comments. Start with a comment. It would be nice to be able to search for shifts by service type, such as personal sports, PTO, etc. That would be nice. Peter, can you show how you can at least sort by service code?
Yeah, so I'm on the main page here right now. If you go to shifts here, if you click shifts at the top, you can sort by like the type mark.
The
Like if you
service code, right? If you just click on service code, you should be able to sort
Mhm.
that way.
Do we have any other questions?
Oh, did you want to just show how that works? Just go down to service code and click it. It should sort by the code.
Oh, you mean
There you go. They're right down there, right?
oh yeah.
Right.
Just keep in mind you might want to ensure that you pick a date range because this is pulling up a lot of shifts right
Right.
here.
Yeah,
So
that's
just keep
the
in
best
mind,
we have. Yeah, best we have now instead of
yeah. But for instance, if you're looking for a particular payroll schedule or a pay period, you can pick the payroll schedule range so that you're only pulling up shifts from like December. Let's see if we have any. So you could then sort, and it wouldn't pull up hundreds or thousands of shifts. It would only pull up shifts from that particular pay period. Same deal. You can mix and match the different criteria. So if you only wanted to search for Elvis's shifts, right? You could type in Elvis. You could pick only shifts that were approval locked, and then you could pick a pay period. And when you search, it's going to pull up everything that fits that criteria.
yeah. Next question. This is a good one. Are the ADL codes mandatory? So I will say, as of right now, they're not mandatory, but that might change based on DDA guidance. And if it does change, we will certainly communicate that out. Next is a comment. If you lock approved shifts on a daily basis in Evvie, the shifts will show up in real time on the participant dashboard before the pay period ends.
That actually depends. It depends on how old the shift is. If you are entering shifts that are in like the current pay period, for instance, the one now that is going to end on Sunday, those don't actually appear in the dashboard until after they're all approved until the pay period ends. So those usually will show up like Monday after you approve them. Although again, it sort of depends when you approval lock it. So if you've been approval locking throughout the pay period, it could appear a little bit sooner than that. But if you enter a shift from, say, a month ago and you approval lock it, that should port over to the dashboard, within 24 hours or so.
Okay, thanks.
Just keep in mind, like the current pay period won't appear until that pay period's over.
How do we enter location when our shift involves a trip outside the home, but the shift starts and ends, I guess, outside of the home?
The location feature is required, but I don't stress about it too much. I mean, if you're mostly outside of the home, then you could just pick community. If it was mostly in the home, pick home. But we're not tracking that in any great detail.
Okay. Can the primary caregiver use PTO at the same time as respite provider provides respite? That would be yes.
Yep. And I guess I should be clear, those kind of shifts are allowed to overlap. So if somebody enters PTO and somebody else works a shift at the same time, the system's not going to flag that as an overlap. The system will only flag direct support services that overlap.
Okay, looking through the other questions.
while you're looking through just day-to-day administrator and support broker. They're fairly rare employee services, but those also can overlap with like personal supports and CDS.
Okay.
And oh, and just to be clear, like CDS 2 to 1, personal supports 2 to 1. If someone has that service, those service codes can overlap since, by definition, you're going to have two employees logging that service code at the same time.
Someone is asking for a Evvie app malfunction as an option to explain the shift adjustment.
There should be one, I think, one of the options for the for the adjustment section. Yeah, we
Right.
can certainly take that feedback. You could also make the note if you wanted to, like the note section or the comment section rather, when you're approving, you could manually enter that if you wanted to, but we can certainly take that feedback.
Yeah, I see a comment about someone having some trouble with exceeding 40 hours. If you have trouble, go ahead and submit a ticket and we'll help you out there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a live-in caregiver, remember, you can enter, all personal support shifts manually using the app if you have that exception from the DDA. So you don't necessarily have to log the hours on the app. It might go over by accident. Just, keep in mind per the program rules, relatives are limited to working 40 hours a week.
If during a shift it takes place at home and at community, which choice is better to use? I think we said
Yeah, it's
about
it's
that.
it's up to the participant.
Yeah. We're told by previous CCS that staff need to check off ADL. Like I said, not today, but maybe soon. How many minutes is safe for a shift to overlap? Very good question.
7. They can't overlap by more than 7 minutes.
Okay. Peter, can you go over the difference between notes and comments again?
Oh, yeah, the notes would be related to what was done during the shift. It's kind of like an ADL, like if you wanted to, customize what happened during the shift, you could use the note section. The comment section is more related to like submitting the shift late or, forgot to clock in. That's why I'm submitting the shift manually. So it's more shift focused as in like maybe why you're entering it in the portal rather than logging it in real time, as an example.
Waiting for more questions. Someone's asking for add other to the ADL list um, for something that doesn't cover other possibilities. That's good feedback.
Mhm.
Someone's asking about the service court's code sort. There's no sort. Um, well, there's no search, but the sort. Peter, can you show that again real quick?
Yeah, so you can either click up here, you can go to shifts, or you can go to view all shifts. Either option takes you to the same place. So if you click the blue service code here, it will sort all the shifts. So all your CDS shifts are appearing in one bunch. You could do the same thing by end time, start time, employee. Just remember that the default view when you go to the shifts page is just all shifts, from all time, going all the way back. You can see there's like 23 pages of shifts here. So one thing you could do is you could also include an additional criteria like the employee or the type of shift or et cetera, the date range. I guess one thing I could mention also, I'm going back to the main page here and I'm going to the view my period pay period page. For the pay period, you can actually download like an Excel sheet, like a CSV, which will allow you could sort in Excel also. Just remember that this page is sorted by pay periods. If you wanted to do a few pay periods back, you just click the button down here. So you can customize the Excel sheet as much as you want, and you can definitely sort and filter, by service code.
Okay. Peter, is there a phone number that we can call to ask questions?
Um, there is a phone number. We have our main line that
Mhm.
you could find on Fellow's website, fellow.org. I can also pull up the website here. So when you land on the main page here for self-direction, if you click the top of the page with contact, it will include our phone number here, 866-252-6871, and then it also includes the customer service ticket link. We also have a list. This is mostly unrelated, but we have a list of the different processing emails and what kind of form you would submit to the processing email.
Okay. So a couple of technical questions, see if you have any feedback about these. Why are the hours and minutes different in Evvie and the dashboard?
Um, per Department of Labor laws, I mean, the shifts are rounded to the like 15th minute. So it's really either side of 7.5 minutes, right? So if you work until 1 p.m., sorry, 1:03 p.m., for example, like that would round down to 1 p.m. when the shift gets processed. If you work till 1:08 p.m., that would round up to 1:15, but just because payments are done in 15-minute increments. That's not even just like program related, that's just standard.
Mhm.
I think that answers the question. But if not, you can always place a customer service ticket for FMSE help and we can look into it.
Okay. And why is there a delay in dashboard accepting Evvie time entries?
I think on some days, are you referring specifically to like the batch shift entry? Because sometimes that might take just a few minutes and you would just want to hold on and then like refresh a couple times and the batch shift entry should appear fairly quickly.
Okay.
It might depend on like the number of people doing it. So I mean, when the traffic's a little higher on Monday, sometimes the system gets a little slower. We are working to upgrade our resources to ensure that doesn't happen. But that would be the explanation. Again, if you don't see a shift appear almost immediately after entering it, definitely place a customer service ticket and we can look into it.
Can the primary provider work respite hours?
Technically, per program rules, the primary provider cannot work respite.
Okay. All right. How far back can we go to log a missed shift?
Whenever the participant was um, enrolled with Fellow, if the employee had the service code and was providing the service, then they can enter the shift back a year, well, back 11 months because we can't bill Medicaid anything that for anything that's over 11 months. So I guess 11 months is the answer. One thing I just recommend is making sure that shifts are submitted in a timely manner to ensure that we can make payment.
Someone's asking, are PTO entries Evvie compliant?
Well, but by definition, I mean, yes, because it's PTO. So there's no, you don't have to log a PTO shift on like the app. Like if you're an employee and you're taking PTO, like don't log in. You should just go into the Evvie portal and enter the shift manually, like we just did in the demonstration. You can just do 8 hours or however many hours the PTO was.
Peter, how will this information be shared again for someone who wants to listen again, read it, might have missed this webinar?
We'll post this webinar under the forms and resources page of the website under webinars. On the forms and resources page, there's a tools and technology section too. And that includes, if you don't want to have to watch like this full webinar, if you just have a question about like, how do I approve a shift? How do I batch enter a shift? there are individual videos that the developer made, and there are also what we call like quick start guides, which are just written instructions for doing all these operations. So if you really only have a specific question about one thing, you do have the option of just using those individual resources on the web page.
All right. Waiting for more questions. Someone wants to know if the app is tracking the employee when they log in.
Well, you have to allow the app to know your location once when you clock in and clock out. So it just pings the clock in location and the clock out location. But if you only say like, select allow the location share once, then no, it wouldn't be tracking your location like during the shift.
Right. Okay. Not seeing other questions. Might be time to maybe wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. And if someone thinks of a question later, feel free to place a ticket. And again, we do have other resources on the forms and resources page under tools and technology, um, including videos and just different written guides. So thank you so much for showing up today. We appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.